Going into this year's legislative session, we knew Republicans would pretty much have their way with a majority and even a so-called supermajority. So if there was ever a doubt that the Democrats are powerless, it was removed with a vote taken on a bill this week. Evan Smith with the Texas Tribune joins us from the state capitol with that and more. Evan, what's it about?
Rick, the voter ID legislation that the governor put on his list of emergency items finally came to the House floor today, or this week, I should say, and it was a sort of a parade of amendments and stalling tactics and delay measures by the Democrats to try to stave off the inevitable, which was the passage of the bill. We knew going into this session that with the Republicans in a majority, as you say, of more than 100 members, 101, a supermajority, they had no problem passing any legislation they wanted, even if every single Democrat refused to participate. And indeed, that's what happened earlier this week. The Democrats put up amendment after amendment after amendment, and it was a parliamentary show. It was really theater for political junkies. But
well, wasn't
in the
that
end,
whole
the Republicans...
issue kind of theater? I mean, we're talking about trying to cut down voter fraud by identification, but there are very, very rare cases of people showing up at the polling places, and most of the voter fraud in mail.
Right. The substantive piece of this is almost irrelevant to the political piece of it.
And on the other hand, the Democrat side, I mean, should they really be worried about massive numbers of people who won't be able to vote because they don't have IDs?
Well, they say that, but again, this is less about what's going to happen going forward than it is about the political realities of this session. If the Democrats wondered whether elections had consequences, that was on display this week. When you have 101 Republicans, you can pretty much do what you want. And it's a lesson for them going forward for the rest of the session. On any issue the Republicans want to do this, they can do this. And for the Democrats, it's just a sad and unhappy time. They've got to ride it out.
Now, that's true in the House. When this goes to the Senate, did they, as they did 2 years ago, did the Senate change its rules so that this voter ID bill could go through without the normal two-thirds majority?
Well, they did, and they did it again this time on voter ID, and they said we don't need a two-thirds to bring this bill up. But look, again, this is about the reality of the Democrats' situation. They do not have any power during the session except to delay and stall, but the inevitable is the inevitable. And for them going forward on every single issue, redistricting, immigration, everything that's going to come up, their minority status is going to be hung over their heads.
And it's likely to show as well in the budget. We had a budget come out of the House committee that was pretty brutal.
Right. And again, you know, you have Democrats on both sides of the Capitol complaining about draconian cuts to public education and higher education and health care. But again, they're at the mercy of the Republicans here. They have to hope that there are a few Republicans who will join with them, but chances are not very good.
Yeah. And in the Senate on the budget, is there likely to be a different story?
Well, the Senate is trying to restore some of the money that was cut from the initial round of the budget so that the Senate budget is more generous to some of these social programs than the House budget is. It's all going to be hashed out in committee, and then, of course, the governor's going to have to decide whether he's prepared to sign a budget that he deems to either have enough cuts or not have enough cuts. What the Senate is doing is trying to make the budget process more humane, but the House is really the driving force on this issue.
And Chairman Pitts of the House Appropriations Committee said he doesn't see that he has enough votes to even go to the rainy day fund.
No, the governor has put a line in the sand after he agreed to use the rainy day fund for this biennium's shortfall. He said he doesn't want to use it for next biennium shortfall, and there's much less of an appetite in the House. I'm not sure Chairman Pitts could get enough votes on his committee, let alone in the full House, to do that.
Evan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick.
Talk to you next week. We've set up a link to the Texas Tribune website. Just go to klrn.org/TexasWeek.